Fired up. Hey, we're back. Welcome back to GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com, and this week by the Londonderry Fish and Game Club.
Ooh.
Ooh, click, click,
Clunk.
click. Well, hey, it's a new environment. You got to hear some booms last segment. It was nice to hear the activity going on, which we'll be joining in a little while. We'd also like to remind you to check out cnht.org. Our normal sponsors, our normal location is in Concord, and we hang out in their offices, and they're kind enough to leave us the space. So please go to cnht.org, see what they do, and make a donation while you're there. And don't forget to donate to us, because we need to pay for all this stuff, and clearly we need some more stuff, because every time we go remote we have issues, and we'd like to stop having issues, and you can help. And we'd also like to get the ads off of Ustream, so if you want to make a donation to help get rid of those ads on Ustream, we'll upgrade our part of
our
that,
stream,
our
account.
$100 a month will cover the majority of our viewers, the majority of the time, so that nearly everybody will get ad-free coverage, except during extremely popular events.
Well, not only that, but we could also upgrade to an HD account, which would allow us to present the video in HD instead of just standard that we get right now.
You'll be able to see all the
nooks and crannies of our faces.
Nooks and crannies of our faces. All the wrinkles. You'll be able to count the grey and the dark hairs on our heads.
I like what he writes, but his complexion is horrible. Yes, I have bad skin.
Oh, boy. And this conversation is deteriorating quickly.
It's not my fault. It's exfoliating.
Well, we've been writing an awful lot at Granite Grok this week. An awful lot.
You guys did awesome yesterday, by the way. See, sometimes I can't write during the day, or I don't have enough time in the morning to schedule posts out so that we have content all day long, which is something that we've been able to do the last couple of years. We've been able, it used to all be in the evening, and now we can stretch content all day long, and we've had people say, hey, this is great. I get to go check a couple times a day, and we have new content. And so when I can't do that, because I'm going to be away from my computer, I'm not going to be anywhere near my house or my office or anywhere, and I will have no access because, I have stuff I have to do that doesn't have anything to do with the computer. I always try to send out an email. I say, hey, no day blogger today. Most of the time, that doesn't work. I don't see much activity. Yesterday, I was out all morning doing stuff for my remodel and things that have been going on, and you guys were awesome.
Explain the day blogger joke.
Day blogger joke is that most of my posting is during the day, and most of Skip's posting is night. So I'm the day blogger. He's the night blogger. And between the two of us, we put up most of the content. Rick tends to put some stuff up during the day and the night. Mike, same thing. We got Kimberly Morin on now. She's able to do once in a while. She's back from Utah, where she was for a week or so, and she hadn't been putting anything up. But now she can do some stuff during the day and at night. But most of the content had been by me. Lots of it. So much that people would bitch that I was pushing their stuff down the page. And
But
so,
you can reschedule that. You can move that time, You can push your stuff back up.
How do you do that?
Change the time.
You go in and edit the publish time, which I do very rarely. But for example, when I put more videos on the debate, and it was
technically new and updated,
and it was all complete, I pushed it to the top.
You can bump it back up.
Yeah, and you knew it was half finished because I had a little under construction sign on the page and a count at the bottom saying so many videos to go.
So day blogger, night blogger, and as we add more writers, depending on who we find that's interested and that we find interesting, that dynamic will change a little bit.
Yeah, but I've been known to shove everybody off the front page.
Oh yeah, I get up in the
Sunday
morning, and there's nothing of mine anywhere near the front page. It's not just me.
But yesterday for me, I was in class actually Thursday and Friday, and unfortunately, I think the expectation was not set. This was a class I was signed up for by my boss while I was out on vacation. And I thought originally, okay, yeah, this technical topic, I would love to know what's going on, love more, what's there. But the guy from this large software company that was teaching us this stuff assumed knowledge that was not in evidence. In fact, it wasn't even close to my hometown. And so it certainly did not make it into my office. So I'm sitting there going, this would be really, really interesting if I had a clue as to how all this stuff got stitched together, because that's how I thought this class was supposed to go. Here's this part, here's this part, here's this part, and then just hang it all together in a framework. That's what I was looking for. The problem is, he already assumed everybody in the class knew what that framework was, and then was going, how we do squirrels here during GrokTALK? Yeah, that's how he taught the class. Tangents all over the place, and I'm trying to figure out how the heck to keep up. And it's like, I'm trying, guys, but you know something? I'm having a hard time. Let me clear my head by picking up a couple of things that I hadn't finished on. So, but yeah, everybody pitched in. See, you put out the call for help, and we could.
Apparently, I did it at the right time.
Well, a lot of times, and it can't happen because normally I can't do that stuff during the day. Can't happen. But I'm sitting there going, I don't have a clue what's being talked about right now. I don't know what to tell you. So it is what it is.
Power.
Yes, running low. Oops, wrong one.
Feel the power of the dark side.
Yeah, they got a couple of official laptops here at the club by the look of it.
Got to find the right power cord. That one go in?
And it worked. No,
Yeah.
well, it's not. Doesn't look like it's.
Oh, maybe we unplugged it to plug all our crap in.
Oh, well. But anyways, so what else is going on?
Well,
What other things should we be
we
talking
could-
about
we could-
on GrokTALK?
Okay, let me bring in the squirrel.
Happy solstice, by the way.
Oh, yeah, 6:51 this morning.
Summer solstice. The druids were dancing, I'm sure. If
That's
I was
right. We
there.
don't want to leave the druids out. There'd be war on druids. We don't want that.
No. So let's have that squirrel. You put up the post about Hillary Clinton having a god-awful book tour.
That was me.
Okay. And about Jason Matera going in and saying...
That was clever.
I might have posted it at night, though, so that would have confused you.
Yeah. Jason Matera going in there and saying, would you sign this book, please? To my friend Chris Stevens. I believe you knew him.
There it is. Hillary Clinton book signing.
Yeah.
Go right to the post.
But wait,
eventually.
there's more. There was a giant squirrel following her around at the book stops with a with a GOP intern inside, and the squirrel was wearing a shirt which said, "Another Clinton in the White House would be nuts." And they were handing out bumper stickers saying the same thing. You'd be nuts to put another Clinton in the White House.
I did hear that. Anyway, Matera says, "Hi, Secretary Clinton. Would you sign this for me?" Clinton, "Sure. What's your name?" "If you could make it out to Christopher Stevens, I think you knew him." "Yeah, I'm not going to make it out to Chris Stevens." Matera, "What difference does it make?" After referencing Clinton's widely reported question in her 2013 Senate testimony before the Foreign Relations Committee, Matera added, "It's kind of odd that you have more security than Chris Stevens had." She had cars of security guarding her from people like him.
That worked out well.
And he got it.
How apropos.
And
She just doesn't know who he is.
And he got in anyway because he's a little guy, and he. Well, I hate to say this, Jason. He looked like he could have been a Think Progress guy, and he probably got away with it. He's actually he's editor in chief of one of the.
He has I mean, he wrote a book right out of college about zombies, liberal zombies, was it?
Yeah.
Democrat Obama zombies.
Yeah, which
I think that was him. And
which-
then he's written
well,
another book since.
Which
And he's-
website is he with? It's not Town Hall, is it? Or is it?
No, he
find
branched off to his own, but he's in the same vein as James O'Keefe, but much more in your face kind of deal. James tends to be laid back and lets them, hang themselves with their own rope.
Daily Surge.
Yes. But Matera is brazenly in their faces.
DailySurge.com. Yeah, he doesn't do undercover. He does right in your face.
A bit like the folks that go on the street for Bill O'Reilly.
Right.
Well,
Kinda.
well,
Well, they just
Waters
kinda-
World. He's.
And he asks questions. He's not.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a pleasant kind of guy. I mean, he doesn't hide what he's doing. He just asks questions. It's sort of like Jay Leno's what he used to do called jaywalking.
yes.
Ask innocuous questions. And every time I see those Waters World, there's also a guy from MRC that does the same thing, whose videos I put up all the time, where they just ask he asks general questions of people at certain events, and it's just utterly amazing and disheartening at the same time to see how clueless people are once you get away from the pop culture.
Yeah.
The stuff that really matters. And you go, did these people not learn anything in school? And then it just goes back to, is this intentionally that they
are
didn't
not
learn
taught.
this in school?
You're not taught philosophy. You're not taught comparative religion. because you can't be taught any religion, though they might teach you a little Islam just for fun. You're not taught our political history and our foundings, and you're barely taught enough for.
You're certainly not taught to challenge them.
You're basically taught enough for mechanical workforce training, and then they think all these people have the right to go to college. I mean,
we're preparing
What?
you to live in concrete housing.
What do you mean? You don't have a right to go to college?
No.
Uh-oh, here he goes. All right, Rick, let me turn the eye of Sauron on to you. Let's hear the rest of this rant. Go ahead.
You know, I was just, as I told you, last night I went and saw Atlas Shrugged Part 3. And it focused heavily on the individual. And one of the themes, the recurring themes that's so glaring in the movie is they talk about, they had actually one scientist in the movie who was scripted as saying, nobody has a right to their own ideas. They should benefit the people. And we've got to figure this out. And, but the thing that really stuck out in my mind is nobody has a right to their own ideas. They should benefit everybody. And then in one part in the movie where Dagny Taggart had gone missing for a month, and I don't want to do a spoiler alert here, but there was one segment in the movie where she had gone missing for a month, and when she came back, she had come back to the railroad unification program whereby all the routes are consolidated under the government and all the profits go into a central pool and distributed evenly to all the conglomerate companies, And you're sitting back and you're thinking about this. Excuse me. You're thinking about the impact and what's going on today and how things are being routed around. And, the crim alien question comes upon us in that case. All these states passing legislation that, your status is irrelevant to, even in the Granite State, they had a bill last year sponsored, and I wrote a blog on it, by a guy who is a legislature, academia, no doubt.
Hang on.
And he sponsored a bill that would allow crim aliens to go to college at the state residency tuition rates. Has our society now, so my question is, has our society in fact evolved to a point where you have a right to a college education regardless of who pays for it?
Well, I would say you're right, and it came out Thursday, I believe, and I haven't done a post on it yet, but there is a Democrat, I would have to say, a Democrat male of Latino persuasion, just by looking at his name, who wants to make it so that, okay, illegal aliens may not become U.S. citizens, but let's make them a state citizen so that they would pay. Yeah, Steve's eyebrow just went up a few feet.
I'm still trying to figure out why the non-resident students who are told they could vote here aren't pissed off because they're still paying out-of-state tuition.
Yeah, but he's basically saying you ought to be able to get a driver's license, you ought to be able to pay taxes, you ought to be able to serve, basically do everything that a citizen should be able to do, including vote. And I'm looking at this going, why do people keep devaluing the value of our citizenship? You would think that people would say, you know something, our citizenship is valuable. And it's the same thing with the right, the vote. My vote, I think, is one of the most precious things that I have, only outweighed by my citizenship. But if you're just going to give it away willy-nilly against the rule of law to anybody who decides just to show up, I mean, what are we doing? The libertarians.
Somebody asked me this the other day. They said, "What other countries do that?" And I'm like, "None of them."
Yeah,
there are no other countries that let you do this.
Mexico doesn't do that.
There's no countries that do this.
In fact, the question has to be asked: how is it that unaccompanied minors from Guatemala and Honduras are able to transit Mexico to our southern border when, if they were trying to immigrate into Mexico, they'd be jailed and deported?
Well, not only that, but, how many 4-year-olds walking by the roadside are going to be left alone if this is a totally spontaneous action? I mean, I'm looking at the age of some of these kids and going, I can't believe that they are still alive to get here.
No.
But I'm tired of hearing, Senator John Cornyn is saying, a Republican saying, well, this is a humanitarian crisis. We have to take care of these kids. And this
Put
is
them in an
where
air-conditioned bus back to Mexico.
Yeah, let's requisition a couple of ocean liners, not particularly luxurious, feed them, give them some shots, and drop them off at the port in their home countries.
And here's the thing that gets you. You know that the Obama administration is behind this because of the post I put up this morning. It cannot be happening any other way. So here is the ultimate using kids as political pawns. And I look at people like John Cornyn, who they're elected to make the toughest decisions that we can make as a society. And yes, we all love children, and we want to do what's best for them. But at the same time, you can't do both at the same time. When nothing has changed, the countries that they're coming from are no different than what they were over the last couple of years. This is not just all of a sudden gang violence has just broken out like it is with the ISS or ISIL in Syria and Iraq. I mean, we don't see that level of stuff, but all of a sudden we're getting tens of thousands of kids coming across the border. We cannot continue to allow that to subvert our rule of law. And yet everybody's saying, come on in. You're right. We can't have these open borders subverted just because they're kids.
They want it because these people will vote Democrat. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Where the hell are the parents, and why aren't the parents in jail, either here or there, for sending their kids out across the Mexican desert?
Well, I'm tired of listening to the argument. And yes, it is a fundamental rule that the children are not responsible for the parents' misdeeds. If your parent dies and they owe lots of money, it's not up to you to pay that debt, although it seems like Social Security wants you to do that for Medicaid in each of the states. And we have seen part of that happen. But
been that way for a while.
The question is, why are you obviating the parental responsibility for that child automatically? Why is our society saying parents are no longer responsible for their kids, unless of course they're truant from school, which then kind of gets into, well, what if the school took them out for an abortion? Now they're sick and now the parents are on the hook for it. But that's another twisted case here. My point is that why should we as a society take over for parents just because progressives really do want to separate kids from parents? And this is just another ploy. We should be saying,
give us the children.
Well, they're using, to the wrong degree. And if their parents are here illegally, we ought to be saying, come get your kid, and as soon as they come, send them all home. Just put them on the other side of the border. I legally don't believe we should have any more responsibility than that. They've broken our laws. They have come here unasked. They are using our resources that we could be using. Rick Perry said, if we have a disaster in Texas, we have no place to put our own citizens because now we've got all these illegal alien kids all over Texas, and there is no more room for our own citizens.
Just herd them back to the border and tell the Mexicans to do something about it. Of course, the Mexicans won't do something about it, and the Mexicans will be perfectly happy to either let them die on the spot or throw them in jail because the Mexicans don't do illegal immigration.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about earlier with Britain, where the elite said, we're going to radically transform Britain to where the ordinary citizen won't recognize it anymore, and we're seeing it there. It used to be that citizens came first. And now we're becoming last. I put up a blog line earlier. What used to be good is now bad, and what is bad is glorified, basically.
It's like a page right out of Animal Farm, 2 legs good,
well,
4 legs bad.
Well, it goes back to Ayn Rand's story, that Atlas Shrugs.
Ayn Rand, yes.
Ayn Rand. Yeah. And I don't agree with the objectivism philosophy that she holds to. But one of our good friends, Grok friends, Chan Eddy, or DCE at Weekend Pundit, whose site we happen to host on our server, he came along and said, have you read this? You need to read this. But I will tell you, you need antidepressants necessary by your bedstand as you read the first 100 pages. And you know something? He was right, because everything that I saw what was going on is happening in that book, and it's like we're almost powerless to stop it. And I got again, we've got circles within circles within circles today. We're doing a really good job of going squirrely and bringing in tangents. But let me ask you this question, guys. How do we stop this nonsense? How do we go back to what they would call in Congress regular order? How do we go back to a normal society? How do we tell them no more turning things upside down just because you don't like traditional America? What is it that we can do? Because it doesn't seem that the people we vote for are willing to do that. You look at the Republican leadership. You look at Jennifer Horn. Heck, just vote for a guy with an R instead of voting for the principles we're supposed to stand for. But what do we do at D.C.?
Let us not forget, and let us remind Ms. Horn that she ran twice as a Tea Party candidate, as a sensible mom who was going to go to D.C. and uphold the Republican platform and reduce the spending. And now she wants us to vote for any bozo who's a converted Democrat and still votes like one.
A carpetbagger, yeah.
The problem, really, and that is the problem, because the only way to solve the first problem is for the states to take back their power and to tell the federal government, and we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
The states need governors and legislatures who will stand up and say, none of this is within your purview. We aren't going to enforce any of it. And you can't have our money to do it. Until they can do that, until enough states stand up and say, no, we're not going to do it. You can make all the laws you want. We're not going to enforce them. Then you're not going to fix it. The states have to do it. It's the only choice we have left. Because as long as the states stand up and recognize their sovereign right under the Constitution, because they can still do that, nothing's going to change.
I think we've crossed a line in terms of arbitrary state power. Arbitrary governmental power, where we witnessed the Washington Redskins, U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, revoking their intellectual property.
There was a wonderful cartoon on Town Hall about that, by the way. You got a guy labeled Patent Office saying we're taking back your trademarks because it offends Indians, and you got a guy labeled with the name of the owner, and he's saying Indian giver. Which is a slur meaning someone who doesn't give something sincerely.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, when I heard that, I didn't really care. I haven't been following the Redskins issue very closely because, to be frank with you, I don't really care.
You don't have to get very close to grasp it. It's not like you know.
But I think the larger underlying issue, a government agency just went to a private owner and said, we deem your name offensive, therefore we are taking it away. And I think it was Barry Goldwater that said a government powerful enough to give you everything you want is also equally powerful to take away everything you have.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was Goldwater or Reagan, but yes, government.
Goldwater it was Goldwater.
Yeah, I think so. It makes sense, and Reagan repeated it. It comes down to the state powers. The states have to stand up and be counted and say, first of all, hell no, you can't do that to our citizens. And then eventually they have to stand up and say, hell no, you can't take that money from our citizens. We're going to take back the taxing powers and only feed you the money for the functions which we delegated to you. But that would be basically a revolution. And meanwhile, let's not forget we have a lot of Latino citizens and legal immigrants that are very welcome here and work very hard and have Christian values. There are surveys that say that the Latino community, by and large, trends Democrat, but it's not 100% Democrat. There's a lot of conservatives and Catholics. However, as long as the government makes it that everybody who's Latino is suspect as a criminalien, as Rick puts it, because they welcome so many of them in with no regular immigration process, one is going to look askance at the majority of brown-skinned people, and that's wrong. And let's recognize that the government has caused this. If you amp up the immigration to the point where it causes crime waves and devalues domestic workers, including those Latinos who are American citizens, then damn it, everybody's going to be regarded as bad.
All right, Steve, I'm going to go back to what you said about the states rising up and saying enough's enough. But again, we're news junkies. We're political junkies. We understand what the fundamentals were of this country before they've been so well distorted by the progressives, which is as I remind people again, a very foreign notion of government. How many people do you know that don't understand this is not right? Or how many people, to flip it the other way, say, this is normal, what are you complaining about?
They still think they're mostly free. They haven't quite grasped how many things they can't do without permission. And it's getting worse all the time. And most people don't realize, they don't feel unfree yet.
I would say in the grand scheme of, like, with the scandals, for example, most people don't know about them. You know, Obama's got at least a dozen of them, several of them right now, making news. And most average people aren't aware of them. Like, they're not even close to aware as we are. So to suggest that applies to everything. You know, they only know what they learn and what they see in the media, and if they don't stretch beyond that, they're not aware.
But a lot of the media, the mainstream media, isn't even covering a lot of these scandals.
They aren't, and that's why they don't know. But even still, a lot of people don't even watch mainstream media anymore. They're media-less. They don't.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just put up the post about
They don't even read the paper.
How disvalued the
sports page comics,
Yeah.
coupons. That's what they get the paper for. They don't read the news. They might see the headlines, but
Yeah. Are we doomed, do you think? Because this country was formed on a people that had virtue and an informed electorate. Are we just bailing against the tempest that's swashing over the gunnels? Because we know what the problem is. We see the storm. We see the water coming
Pirate
into
cannons.
the boat. Yes. Are we just... Should we just say, screw all this, hunker down, prep for the worst, and just wait for it to happen and shoot back?
I'd have a lot of free time at this time. That's what
I
we did.
think. I personally think that people are. They're just largely on it. They got their kids and their houses and their dogs and their groceries, and they're microcosm of living, and they're living in it, and everything else is irrelevant until things occur that start taking pieces of that away.
We're going to have to revisit that in 3 minutes because we've come to the end of the segment, but hold that thought because that's very important. I'm Steve McDonald here with Mike Rogers, who's not going to talk, Skip Murphy, and Rick Olson. We'll be right back.
Dang.
And we're back. I'm Steve McDonald here for GrokTALK, brought to you by GraniteGrok.com, the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, and this week the London Dairy Fish and Game Club. Thank you very much for allowing us to use your space and your wireless and all those wonderful things. And we will be taking advantage of additional amenities here at the club when we go out to the range and shoot some stuff. And
yes, and if you can hear that, the music in the background,
different kind of music. Yeah.
Yes, very bassy, thump, thump.
Boom.
I have to tell you, if I was listening,
It's more like crack, crack, boom, where the cracks are normal shots, and every once in a while a tannerite goes up.
yeah, and I'd have to say this reminds me of when the youngest first arrived in Afghanistan at COP, Combat Output Post, Michigan, and he called just to say that he had arrived safely. And I'll tell you, the quality of the call...
Some new definition of the word safely.
Yes. Well, the call quality was spectacular, given that he's out in the wilderness for the most part. But all I kept hearing, underneath his voice was thump, thump, thump. And I waited for the most esteemed wife to get off the phone, and I quickly and hurriedly asked him, "Ian, is that what I think it is?" And he went, "Yeah, Dad, we're under attack." And those are that's the outgoing mortars. Mm-hmm. And
oh wow!
I'll tell you, it's one of those things, along with when the eldest was in Iraq at El Asad Air Base, which is now taken over by ISIL. That he was the expediter for the squadron, trying to get spare parts and equipment back from the States. So he was on the computer all the time, and he would email me at various times, and all of a sudden I'd send an email back expecting an answer, and all of a sudden there's nothing there. And I had found out that the electronic guillotine had fallen because they had been brought under attack. But the tanner right here, I'm listening to that and going, I can't get that memory out of my head.
Oh, man, yeah, that must have been really worrying to have them there.
It was, and I have to bring up, word came this morning on the news that a young Lance Corporal in the U.S. Marines from Peterborough lost his life in Afghanistan, along with, I think, 3 other Marines from an IED in Afghanistan. And it hit home because we are from New Hampshire, all of us, or we live here in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And this was a young Marine, 19 years old, just graduated from high school last year.
GrokTV.